It was a Friday night, and a few of us were hanging out at Lisa's place, just trying to kill time for the weekend. Her parents were out of town, so she had the whole house to herself. We'd finished off some pizza and soda. The couch was littered with snack wrappers, and the air was still buzzing from all the dumb jokes we'd been making. Around 10, things started to quiet down. Nobody said it, but none of us were ready to head home. Then Lisa pulled out an old wooden box from behind the bookshelf, saying she'd bought it at an antique store. We asked what it was, and she grinned as she opened it. Inside was an old Ouija board, printed with large letters, numbers, YES, nitrogen monoxide, and goodbye. The box also held a triangular planchette with a hole in the center. We all knew what it was: a spirit board, the kind people said you could talk to ghosts with. People at school had mentioned it before, but none of us had actually played it. I almost laughed, but didn't. The air that night felt heavy. The window was open, but no breeze came in. Lisa set the board on the coffee table and had the four of us sit around it. She explained the rules: just place the fingers lightly on the planchette, don't push, and wait for it to move on its own. We were joking as we followed her instructions, saying someone would obviously be the one secretly pushing it. Then she turned off the lights, leaving only the faint yellow glow from the kitchen. We leaned close, our fingertips resting on the plastic. At first, nothing happened. We asked silly questions like, "Is anyone here?" or "Can you make the light flicker?" No response. Someone laughed, saying it was just a kid's scare toy. I don't know how long we sat there before I felt something pulling at my hand. It wasn't strong, but all four of our hands were on the planchette, and yet it seemed like there was an extra force beneath it. It moved, sliding toward yes, then stopping. We froze. Nobody admitted to moving it. We asked, "What's your name?" The planchette began to glide slowly, letter by letter. C. R. L. My stomach sank. Something about it felt wrong, and the air seemed heavier. Lisa asked, "How did you die?" It paused, then shifted. B-U-R-N. Burned. The silence stretched for over 10 seconds. My throat was dry, my lips pressed against my teeth. I was already thinking about getting up. Lisa said, "One more question." I didn't know why I didn't object. She asked, "Where are you?" The planchette moved again. And E-R, near. We all yanked our hands back at the same time, and the planchette snapped back to the center. I scanned the room. Nothing had changed. The kitchen light was still on. The window outside was quiet. But I felt something there with us, standing too close. Lisa pushed the board away, about to put it back, when we realized the planchette was gone. She'd left it on the board, but now it had vanished. We searched under the couch cushions, under the coffee table, even in the trash, nothing. She asked if one of us had hidden it, but everyone shook their heads. Nobody laughed. That was the end of the night. We wrapped things up quickly, grabbing our jackets. Lisa walked us to the door, looking pale. As I stepped out, I glanced back. She was still standing there, staring at us, expressionless. When I got home, my phone buzzed. A text from Lisa. "The planchette just showed up on my bed," I replied. "Seriously?" Before I could type more, she sent another. It slid out from under my closet by itself. I stared at the screen, feeling cold, and didn't respond. I left the lights on all night and didn't sleep. The next morning, I called her. No answer. I texted, and she replied slowly, saying she'd burned the entire board set in the backyard. While burning, the planchette cracked, the split running from the hole in the center to the edge. She said the house felt quieter afterward, but she wasn't sure that was a good thing. I didn't push her for details, and nobody brought up that night again. A week later, I found an unmarked envelope in my mailbox. Inside was a single sheet of blank paper. I flipped it over. Faint indentations covered the back. I held it up to the light by the window, and the letters appeared. C-R-L. I tore the paper up and threw it in the trash. That night, there was no wind, but my curtains moved. It was 3:15 a.m. when I stood in the dimly lit lobby of an old office building, clutching a printed note in my hand. On it was a strange sequence of elevator floors: 4, 2, 6, 2, 10, 5, 1. I was alone. All I had on me was my phone, my keys, and the note. I hadn't told anyone I was coming here. No texts, no posts, no location sharing. I just wanted to see if this urban legend was real, if anyone had actually tried it and survived. The lobby was silent except for the faint hum of the old chandelier's yellow light. The security desk was empty, the chair behind it slowly spinning, as if someone had just left. I stepped into the elevator. The doors slid open without a sound. Inside was small, with scuffed grey walls and elevator buttons ringed by faint smudges from countless hands. I pressed 4. The elevator hummed upward. My pulse picked up. It stopped. The doors opened, then closed again. No one. I pressed 2. It sank smoothly. Then 6, back to 2, then 10. Every time the doors opened, I saw nothing but silence, dim hallways lit by flickering fluorescent tubes. I pressed 5. My palm was damp, the paper curling in my grip. The doors slid open. Nothing, just a broken wall clock, its second hand frozen. I took a deep breath and pressed the last floor, 1. For a moment, nothing happened. If the legend was true, the elevator wouldn't go down, it would take me straight to 10. It didn't move. Then the light blinked, and the car began to rise on its own. My knees felt heavy, like invisible hands were holding them in place. It stopped at 10, the doors opened. This wasn't the hallway I'd seen before. All the lights were off except for a pale red glow coming from a single window at the far end. The glass wasn't the usual office kind, it had that wavy, distorted texture, like old hospital windows, so you couldn't see outside. The walls were peeling, the floor coated in dust. No sound, not even the low hum of air vents. I stayed right where I was. The legend was clear: if you stepped out, you weren't in the same world anymore. Just before the doors shut, I heard something, the crisp, measured sound of high heels clicking on plastic tile, getting closer. The doors closed. I pressed myself against the back wall, my fingers crushing the note into a ball. All the floor lights went dark except 410, glowing red. Then 5 lit up. I hadn't touched it. The elevator began to descend. The door slid open. She was standing there. Her hair fell to her chest, her skin pale, her head tilted down, so I couldn't see her eyes. She wore what looked like an old, grey nurse's dress. She didn't speak. She didn't move. I kept my eyes fixed on the floor number display, and didn't look at her. She stepped inside. I heard her footsteps, felt her standing just behind me. The faint rustle of fabric brushed the air. I didn't move a muscle. The doors closed. We started moving down toward 1. That was wrong. If she got in, it was supposed to take me back up to 10. Then she spoke, soft, almost a whisper. "Do you know where you are?" I said nothing. "Do you know Roger misses you?" My heart seized. How did she know about Roger? Roger was my childhood dog, black and white, full of mischief, always curling up at my feet. I didn't talk much as a kid, didn't like playing with others, but he would run to greet me every day after school, tail wagging like crazy. He'd press his head into my palm, like it was his favorite place in the world. I thought he'd be with me 4 years. But when I was in middle school, I came home one day and found him lying in the street. A neighbor said he'd chased a cat and run into a truck. He died instantly. I'd never told anyone about Roger. Not because it was a secret, it was just a heavy. I buried the memory like I buried him, and yet, she spoke his name. I went rigid, my throat sealing shut. I didn't turn around. I didn't cry. I bit down hard, just to keep the tears from spilling. Her voice softened, almost sing-song. When he died, he wasn't looking at the street. He was looking at your door. My stomach clenched tight. That was the one detail that had destroyed me. My neighbor had told me Roger's last glance was toward our front door, like he wanted to come home. I kept silent, my hand gripping the note, so tightly my palm was slick with sweat. Then I smelled it: burnt fabric, old cloth singed black. She was still talking, but the words faded, like my ears had been stuffed with cotton. The doors opened. The display said 1, but this wasn't the lobby. The walls were covered in smeared handprints. The lights flickered like they were dying. I didn't move. She didn't either. The doors closed again, and we began to rise. This time, I pressed 1 myself. The numbers jumped from 2 back to 1. When the doors opened, I saw the familiar lobby, the couch, the slowly turning chair, the wall clock. I walked out without looking back. Just before I stepped outside, I turned. The elevator doors were still open. It was empty. I never went back to that building. I tore up the note, deleted the photo on my phone. But I still can't let go of one thing: how did she know about Roger?